welcome to Over It. And I am here with a very, very dear friend, Jayme. And Jayme, even though you and I haven't known each other for a long time, I felt like the minute we met, I was like, oh, soul sister, soul sister. And I feel like that every time we get to see each other, which isn't often, but even right now, just seeing you, like it almost brings tears to my eyes because I just feel such a sisterhood with you. So welcome to Over It. And thank you so much for just being here today with me.
I am so excited. I haven't known you long. It's been a little over a year. And you're right. From the minute we met, we were connected. And the more we talked, the more things we had in common, the more beliefs we shared. And, I told you this, but you were my inspiration post divorce um, for seeing what love on the other side could look like. And it was at a time I wasn't even ready. I was anti men. I was anti online dating. I was anti everything. But there you were, this bright light with your boyfriend and in such a great place. And it was like one of the first things I said to you was like, now I know the reason why I was meant to meet you.
Wow.
And I'm just getting the chills now. And then a year later, we saw each other again on the same weekend. And
Yeah.
I was there with my boyfriend now, and I am experiencing that same kind of love. And we cried. I hugged you. I was like, I told you. It was just an amazing moment for me. So
And an
yes.
amazing moment for me because you said to me the first time we hung out, you said, I'm going to find my Oz. Oz is my boyfriend.
Hmm.
I'm going
Yes.
to find my Oz.
Hmm.
And boy, did you ever. I mean, like you found your version of
Uh-huh.
happiness
Happiness. Mhm.
after a very, very long marriage, right?
Mhm.
And before we get into all of that, I mean, right before we started recording, I mean, we were just talking about how challenging it is as women to tell our stories and to tell our stories from a place of vulnerability and truth and to acknowledge that there is fear. There is fear of what are the repercussions of telling our truth. And I was sharing with you that with all of the women I've interviewed so far for the podcast, the reaction after recording has been one, women saying this was really powerful or this meant a lot to me. And two, oh, can you please edit out such and such part without fail, each woman. And I totally get it, right? I totally get that sort of sense afterwards of I've exposed myself too much, or why did I say that? Or, you know, I'll be safer if this piece is taken out. And I want to honor that. And I identify with it. And at the same time, like, how can we as women be honest and comprehensive in our stories without self-censoring and still acknowledge that there is risk? And you started to say you felt like there were kind of two issues with being that
With
honest.
honesty.
Yeah, can you
Right.
share some of that?
Well, the first thing I thought of about being honest was, again, being honest to yourself first, admitting all your feelings, admitting what you're feeling, admitting that it's okay to feel that way. And again, I use the example my 23-year-old son is moving into Boston. He's been living home for the summer after college graduation. And I'm excited for him to get out of the house.
Yeah.
And and at the same time, I'm guilty. I feel guilty because I have that thought. So for me to first honestly say I'm excited for him to get out of my house, I have to be honest with me and I have to feel that guilt and whatever else, but that's just my truth. And then secondly, sharing our stories. Again, I've gone through a lot of shit in the past few years, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but it basically started with my mom passing away. Um, a little over 3 years ago, and my life changed. I changed, and I am done not living who I am and being honest with myself. And um, I think once that we could be honest with ourselves, then maybe it's a little bit easier to share with others, because we also are protecting ourselves from a lot of that
Yes.
information. Like, I don't want to go too deep. We get so, but I've wanted to tell my story. I do believe there's a lot um, of uh, positivity and sharing all our stories, all us women, as you know, which is why you're making this podcast. The more we share, the more we help others. That's all. I'm about that. So I wanted to tell my story. I've thought about it. Do I write a book? But how do I write my story? How do I include the chapters with my ex? How do I include my kids? How do I without right?
A
So
hundred
and
percent.
and then so then I'm like, all right, months passed. The urge to tell my story has passed, right? And then I get a text from you, right? Would you want to be on my podcast? And what was my first reaction to you?
Yeah,
That is out of my comfort zone. I'm
totally.
nervous, is what I
I'm
said to you.
nervous.
I
Yeah.
instantly got butterflies. I instantly was like, oh my God, what am I, what, like, and then like I took a breath because it's you. And I'm like, this is maybe my first forum into trying to tell my story.
Right.
So,
Which I just identify with. I mean, I said to you going into this recording, I said, I'm not in a good place. You know, I'm not in a good place. I'm not, I mean, I am over it. I am over like a really big thing that's going on in my life right now that's causing me a lot of stress. Like I feel this sense of like I'm so over dealing with the complexities of co-parenting with my ex. This is not to throw my ex under the bus. It's just, it's so hard. Anybody who has gone through divorce and there's children involved, I mean, good for you if you have an amicable co-parenting relationship. Like praise Gay Jesus, but I do not have an easy co-parenting relationship. I have the same relationship with my ex I had when we were married, but we're not married and we still have to raise this creature. And it's so hard. It is so, so hard. And I can take ownership of probably the ways that I also make it hard for him.
mhm.
But it's freaking hard and it's stressful. And I want to own it. And like I told you, I can't come into this podcast today like sunshine and rainbows because that's not where I'm at. And I need to be honest about that. Um,
That made me think about over it, um, and this week of what I've been dealing with is like I'm so tired. I'm over um, constant things always changing. Like again, my mom died, change. I got divorced, change. I lost my friends, change. Some friends. My kid grad, everything, and every. I feel like I'm always like looking, and there's more big, and I have more work to do, and I'm so tired of like whatever happened to like status quo. Like I don't think like there's always something. And I went and I did a little meditating at I like to go visit my mom at her grave. And it's just like a very peaceful for those anyone listening, like it's the most amazing cemetery. It is peaceful, it is pretty. It's not like an old cemetery with like a million things. So anyway, um I was just like, why am I like, because I'm trying to reinvent myself again. I'm looking for a new career. Now I need money, whatever. And it was kind of like you're gonna keep reinventing yourself. So get rid of that mindset. Like I'm over it, but we're always gonna face it again. So it's like
like
I'm
change and growth and
change reflects
evolution.
growth. Growth
Yeah.
comes from all your hard work. Like so yes, I'm over it. I'm over everything I do. I'm over people pleasing. I'm over like all the things. but I'm gonna face it again. Like, you're gonna
Right.
face your co-parenting again,
Yeah.
and, we're gonna have to get over it again. Like,
Right. We're never
I'm
gonna
over it,
reach
but
some golden land
right.
where everything is just hunky dory and there's nothing to work on and there's nothing to transcend and there's nothing to heal.
Not anymore, I feel like, and
Not
that
anymore. Over It is proudly sponsored by the Couples Center of the Pioneer Valley, offering specialized services to couples and individuals with relationship issues and concerns. Check them out on the web at pioneervalleycouplestherapy.com or call them at 413-570-0067.
and
Can you talk about not anymore? Where does that come
um
from in you? Like, what's that distinguishing point? Was it your mom's death? Not anymore. What changed?
now, well, for me, it was definitely my mom's death. Now, in general, I feel like life for everyone I know in my circle, our friends, everything's hard. I don't know if it's middle age. I don't know if it's post COVID. I feel like
Mm,
everything's harder for everyone, the kids, like
yeah,
everyone, So, and the things you hear about are worse.
right.
They're more tragic, we hear about more. So I would say that's just in general, like life, it's just always going to come. I don't know. Maybe I'm like reminiscing of the days where I could go a month without like thinking or hearing
Yes,
of
I can
something,
understand. I
you know?
totally resonate with that. Where's the next window of just breath gonna
Right,
come in?
right,
Right.
right. And it hasn't, right. It's a great way to say it, a window of breath. I don't know. And I'm
Yeah.
happy now. And again, I found love. I'm on the other side of, um, just a lot of crap for a lot of years, and it's still hard. And what's harder is facing that. What's harder is like, it's almost like, oh, I don't want to do the work. Like,
Right.
I'm tired of doing the work. What do I got to learn? Right? Everything's a lesson or a blessing.
Well, that another fucking growth experience. Like, I'm always
Oh,
like, not
I'm
another one.
out.
I'm good.
That,
I'm
that,
good. I think I'm grown enough at this
right.
point. Like,
I'm
and
so
not like,
proud of me.
yeah, I'm so proud of me. Let somebody else grow for a while. And how much of that has to do with also being a seeker? You are a seeker of healing. You're a
Mhm.
seeker of evolution. If you weren't, you would have stayed married. You would have
Right.
stayed
Right.
in the career you were in. You would have, you know,
Right.
so
That's true.
it's
It's
just
true.
actually accepting as well our own nature. Our own nature is to
Mhm.
seek the light, is to seek that next layer of the onion and owning that. Like, we are not going to change in that way. We are always going to seek for more, right?
Right.
So when it comes to like telling your story, and I hear the ambivalence about no, the sense of urgency about telling my story is past, but has it really, and what version is okay to tell? Like, what feels like most salient for you right now about your story, if you were going to share?
Such a good question. Um, I might cry.
Please do. I eat your tears for breakfast.
Uh,
You can eat mine too. I'm probably going to cry
um,
today for sure.
I, I survived the death of my mother, and
Yeah,
I came out the other side, and I'm thriving. And there were a lot of years, and so she died July of 2020.
right.
Um, and I would say like my word for the year of 2021 was survive. And
Yeah.
that's like a horrible, way to live. And it took a lot. I went deep into grief and learning about grief. And I had a whole spiritual awakening, which has, again, caused me to grow and learn. But it was the worst thing. So, you know, I've even said and then a year later, we started the process of divorce, which was a mutual thing. It wasn't, it was, but it was loss after loss after, and it was rough. But so I guess my story is that I hit rock bottom, and I'm back. And you know, I have a lot to share about grief, um, which I became a certified grief educator and then never knew how to share that. And I've learned a lot about love. I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about death, or the end of life. And it, um, it just, now it's precious, and I've learned the valuable commodity of our time here. And I guess that's, my story is that I found meaning in the loss, and now I'm thriving.
Right.
And but, it took a lot of work to get there, and it pays off. It paid
What
off for me.
would you say, I mean, I will say for me, one of the things I discovered in my journey of loss is that I really can depend on myself on a deep level.
Yes. Yes. I'm stronger than I thought I was. Yes. But the to find a replacement for my mother, which everyone has a mother, whatever your relationship is. Mine was, she was my person. She was my cheerleader. She was honestly, the co-parent of my children once they
Right.
moved up here. She was in everything. She was at all the kids' games. She was the one who took care of me. And when she died, the feeling of safety and feeling
Yeah.
safe in the world was what I lost.
Wow.
And that is so it's always about feeling safe in the world. And I had to navigate that. And I could do it alone. But that feeling of safety wasn't, I never found it. And to be honest, Mark he makes me feel safe. And once I felt that with him, which was within 10 days, like I
Yeah.
knew it. I knew it. I'm home.
Right.
But
Right.
that was my feeling that I lost.
Wow. I mean, you said you've learned a lot about death and you've learned a lot, could you share some of that? And about
Sure.
grief, because yeah, you really,
I love it.
yeah,
It's amazing. I was with my mom. No, I wasn't with her when she died because I couldn't. But I was the one with my dad who told her, it's okay to go. We'll meet again. And I love you. We got this, all this stuff. Now she's lying on her hospital bed. Her eyes are closed. She hasn't spoken in 2 days. Like we've made the change, right? We already did that. So me and my dad are there. It's okay to let go. She'd said goodbye to everyone. And, we're whispering all this stuff. And I look at her, there's tears coming down her cheeks.
wow.
I looked at my dad and I'm like, oh my God. Like she heard me, right? I
Yes.
knew she heard me. So, um, so that, so to be able to experience death in such a graceful, gentle way is a gift.
Mhm.
Okay. It's a gift to be able to say goodbye. Um, and then, so let me just rewind 6 months before my mom died. A friend of mine started telling me about a medium she met, and how one of our friends who had passed came in with this message, and I was like blown away. I was like,
Yeah.
what? So I was interested, and I was like, oh, this is before COVID, before the whole. So I went and met with a medium, and her whole dead family came through. So it was amazing. So I had to call my mother, my parents, who now they do not believe, we never talked about grief. Again, her whole family died. I never heard the word grief. I had to call my dead mother. I know, I had to call my mother and tell her I just went to a medium and your whole dead family came and spoke to me. And we were like laughing and crying. So a little bit, there was like she had believed. So when I said this to her, I'm like, "Mom, you and I know, we'll talk again." And then she cried. And then I I think it was probably a month or 2 after she died, I had an appointment with a session with a medium, and my mother basically reported about what went on at her, uh, at her funeral.
So she
She le
came through the medium
Oh, yeah,
and
and
talked
was
about the funeral.
the funeral, she liked what I said. So, like, I was it was already, like, swirling around me, like, that there's more to life after death,
Yeah.
okay? And then over the last 3 years, I mean, I've had I mean, probably over 20 medium sessions, where my mother, comes right in, um, but so I'm still connected to my mother. So there
Yeah.
a few things I'd like people to know is what that death is not the end. Okay. They're still with you, and there's ways to connect with them, and there's signs all the time that you're missing. I would say the number one thing I learned is that there are no coincidences.
Hmm.
So don't be like, oh, I was just thinking of my dead so and so when I heard this song. It's not a coincidence. It's them. You're trying to get into you. So that was a big one. It was big that they're all happy where they go. There's no more pain. There's no more cancer. There's no more. They're happy. They've left their physical body. They're they're reunited. I with my mom is literally reunited with her dead family, like her sister, her parents. They all come through me now, like, and then um it provided me a lot of comfort to know that even though my mother is not here next to me, she's here, and I know she's here, and, to the point so then I kinda started, like, having thoughts. I don't wanna say I felt they weren't mine, but I would just be, like, having thoughts, like, "Ah, alright, well, maybe now's the time for me to I think it's time for me to quit my job and whatever." And I'd be like, "Where'd that come from?" And then I'm like, "Is that my mother?" Like, I thought I was going crazy for, like, a year,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm like, "Am I like, what is happening? I could connect with my dead mother, like, how is this happening?" Um, but it happened, and, um, it's a gift, and for everyone who is mourning a dead relative or you think you're going it alone, like, you're not, and all you have to do is, like, tweak a few things, and, you can have them in your life to the point, like, my mom, like, guides me through my divorce. She's guiding my kids. My kids have sessions with that, well, Lauren does, and she's just right on it. And to
Yeah.
get help from the other side a little bit, yes.
Yes. Do you think she was instrumental in you meeting Mark?
Not only do I first of all, on our second date, I told him that I am 1,000% sure my mother put him in my path. So that was on our second date. And then my last medium session in July, she finally admitted it.
Mhm.
She was, like, gloating, like, that's
Mhm.
and do you wanna know what she said? She said it was her number 1 mission when she got to the other side to find me somebody who gives me as much love as I put out,
Wow.
and she did it. I know, like, there's so many things that she's done, like, my dad and I moved at the same time, like, she's still, like, orchestrating our lives
Yes.
in in the same way, she's just not here. So and yes, it still sucks, and I cry, and, um but the thing about, it's like you have to integrate your grief with your living, and
Yeah.
that's that's what I wanna help people do, and then I don't know, I got stuck in figuring out how to do that.
If you're enjoying Over It, make sure you follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Music. Well, and even when a divorce maybe
And it's another grief.
may be mutual, it's another grief. It's
Oh,
like a
it's a
massive
huge loss,
loss,
huge
huge
loss.
loss.
And then I had all the work I had to do to get rid of all the things from the marriage, which I still, that's a whole nother thing, a relationship after being married. Like Mark and I'll like he'll do something and it'll trigger me where I'll like, and I'll look at him like, oh, that's not, and he's so like astute. He'll be like, I don't think that's on me. I'm like, you're right, you're right.
Yes, it's the
But
projection, it's the
ah,
unhealed parts, right? They're like the
so
ghosts are
much.
present,
Yes. Oh, they're present.
and not the happy ghosts.
No, no. But again, you have to face all of them to let them go. Because I don't, another thing I'm over bringing my past bullshit with me into my future.
Mm.
Over it, over it.
Even though it may creep up, that ability to say, "Oh, that I know what that is," or having a partner who says, "Oh, I know what that is." Not being in denial of it, right? It's gonna
Mhm.
crap up. It crop up, it crap up and crop
It's
up. It is a
both.
part, it's both. It's a part of us, but being able to acknowledge it without dropping into shame around it, really trying to hold a stance of self-compassion when we do get triggered, when we do react around something from our past that's present here in some way that's familiar. To have a self-compassionate stance around that is so important. And can we also say that there is great joy, obviously, in finding unexpected love at this stage of life? But I will say that for me, there was also quite a challenge or an arc in going through divorce, processing loss and grief, and at the same time falling in love.
Oh, yeah. It didn't happen. I wasn't looking. I mean, I told him that it's the other, like, I wasn't looking for this. Like, yeah. But you know what? I feel like, and again, he was meant to come to me when he came, like that. Again, I know that. I don't question timing anymore. Um, but I needed to find this love in order to go the next step over the grief. Like, it helped me heal more. It showed my heart, it opened up my heart again, literally. Like grief and loss, had made it, and um I felt it really was another step up out of where I was, and that made me almost, I don't want to say a true survivor.
Took you into more of a place of thriving?
Yeah, and it brought up my energy level. Love brings you up even higher. So our ability, we obviously want to be at a higher energy, but like I had like other like angels following me now because I'm on it brought up my like that was crazy. So anything that you can fill with love, love is everything.
Well, and it took a colossal dose of self-love, I think, to catapult you out of your marriage, like
100,
mutual or not,
100%.
right?
Right. 100%. And self-love over the last, yeah. And living, yeah, getting through the divorce and being alone and all the things we have to learn and do. And I think that's the most important. Self-compassion, you were talking about earlier, self-parenting, like be as nice as we are, to our kids, to our friends, as we are to ourselves. And let's just make that change. I'm over that. I still like, I was looking in the mirror. I'm like, oh God, my boobs, my this. I'm like, oh, Jayme, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
waste of time. All these little thoughts. That's the other thing. Oh, here's one other thing I want to say, because I found this fascinating when I learned it. When we all go down the path towards death, we see our life review.
Mhm.
So it's like have you know this, right? Okay. I found this
No,
so
this is great. Talk it up.
so it's like a technicolor movie of your whole life. And the whole, not the point of it, but it was kind of like, did you fill your soul's purpose?
Right.
Like, it's from your soul's point of view. Your soul doesn't care if you have 5 extra pounds, if you're, so it's like, why are we wasting all our time on this minutia of things that don't matter when we could be, spending our time, so when we do see our life review, we're like, yes, nailed it. Right.
That I fulfilled my mission.
I'm here
in this
for my
life.
purpose. Right.
I'm here for my purpose. I did my best to try to explore it and fulfill it. Right. I'm so glad you said that. And if we go back to that time, because I met you when you were going through your divorce, and it was such an interesting mix that I could identify with, of emotions, of, feeling all the feels about this huge ending of a long-term relationship with the father of your children, and also almost this giddiness I saw in you of like, please, oh my God, my own place, like, well, with the kids, but
I was kidding.
It was so wonderful to see the complexity of all of that emotion, and it was all happening all at once.
And they all happen all at once. And I don't think I was my true self in my marriage for a lot of years. I don't know when it turned. I definitely, once I became a mother, I was a stay-at-home mom. I stopped my job in accounting, and happily, but I gave it like whatever. But towards the end, I just wasn't ever myself. Obviously, I wasn't happy for a long time. So if you're not happy, but I just felt like I wasn't myself. And there was a freedom and an empowerment to actually just live my true self and be who I wanted to be. And when I met you, I was still figuring out who I was and who I wanted to be, because you live, or you're in a marriage or in a community and everyone for so long that you're just playing a role without almost even knowing it. But I knew it. And then my mom died, and I'm like, I can't play this role anymore. I found myself, and this is the only way that I can explain it. I couldn't lie, and I couldn't be less than who I was. Like, I couldn't fake it anymore. Couldn't fake it.
Right. There's that feeling maybe of like, where am I in my life? Right? Like, where am I in my life? And who am I behind these roles or these masks that I wear? And I wear somewhat unconsciously, as we all do. Where am I in all of that? And I think that is, for real, one of the scariest questions we could ever ask ourselves. Is, right, the acknowledgement of like, I'm getting up like a robot, and I'm going through these things, some of which are quite meaningful, like parenting children and everything, but still, where am I in all of this? Who am I in all of this? What feels alive? What doesn't feel alive within me? I mean, I think those are some of the scariest questions we can ask ourselves.
And then to realize that you lost yourself. And then, right, do you have the courage to make a change? And it's all scary. Scary.
All scary. And it can take as long as it's going to take. I mean, I've heard so many people, men and women, berate themselves because they know they're not where they want to be. They know they're not fully authentic in their lives. They're in a relationship that no longer serves them, and they're struggling to make change. And that's okay. Like, it's going to take as long as it takes. And just starting to be able to acknowledge some of these things to ourselves is an act of courage. That's an act of bravery. And struggling with not knowing what to do next, or where to turn, or what to change first. Like, that's all part of the journey too. Right?
And to just believe that everything will happen when it's meant to happen. Like, again, we were in marriages maybe for too long, unhappily, whatever. But, the way mine went down, I feel like happened the way it was supposed to happen. So, I just want to move forward. Like, I'm over the past. I'm over, as I said, I'm over, carrying everything, the old wounds with me. And I know that those always come back. Like, those are our core, but like, I really like, I want to face them and I'm over it.
Over It is proudly sponsored by the Couples Center of the Pioneer Valley, offering specialized services to couples and individuals with relationship issues and concerns. Check them out on the web at pioneervalleycouplestherapy.com or call them at 413-570-0067. I'm just thinking about this scenario I'm in right now where I've been really feeling inundated by stress and worry. And I think it's really taken me a little bit off my equilibrium because it's legitimate worry. Like I am worried about my son being collateral damage and all of this. And at the same time, just recognizing, are there ways that I'm sort of feeding my own fear narratives? Do you know what I mean? Like there is legitimate concern that I have. And at the same time, am I feeding my own worry narratives and reacting with old trauma to what's going on right now? I mean, I think the answer is yes.
and because we all fall into our old patterns
Absolutely.
until we like stop and we're like, wait a minute, right? But wait, something you said, oh my God, I lost my
Feeding
thought.
my fear narratives and sort of
Oh,
react.
no, you're stressed.
Yeah.
I just want to, because stress, we both know, is a huge killer for our bodies to function right. Like I'm also into like, you know, I feel like as we get older, our health and keeping our physical health is of the utmost importance. I've gone through some things this year, nothing, you know, pelvic floor. I've never even heard of that. Now I got issues, you know, like,
I got issues.
you know, things like that. And so I'm like, I really want my health to be the best, you know, but cortisol and the stress, like it's killer. So I just to hear how stressed you are, like, I want to like, I just want you to like think of ways that for self-care that you could at least try and bring your level down before, like, because we don't even function properly. And
Yes.
no, am I right? Like, so that like,
Our brains go offline and we cannot thrive.
right.
And
So,
then also seeing if our child is in fight or flight,
yeah,
which I
right.
just went through 2 days of this with my kid. He
Hilarious.
was 10 out of 10, fight or flight, cortisol through the roof. And because I wasn't like as grounded as I typically am, I kind of just went there with him. You know, I was
Right,
like,
right.
oh, this feels really old.
Right.
And, you know,
See,
I was as heightened as he was for 2 days. And, you know, I'm not proud of it, but at the same time, I think you know, what I really try to cultivate now is also compassion for myself. Like I'm human. And when you're around someone who's literally, you know, in fight or flight, it's hard not to, especially when it's your kid, to sort of, you know, try to go there or fumble all over the place trying to make it better. And so I stuck him in like a bath last night. It's called, for anybody who's interested, and they're not a sponsor, but Fluid Soaks, which is it's this company that makes these bath soaks that are like, they're so and you know, it's transdermal, so it's like it's got magnesium and all these other things that you soak in to bring your nervous system back to a place of equilibrium. It takes you out of fight or flight. So last night I was like, I'm going to try these for the first time, so I stuck my kid in it. And later on in the night, I realized it was like 2 hours later, I hadn't drained the bath. And I thought to myself, okay, even though this is super gross, I'm so exhausted. I'm just gonna get in this bathtub.
oh, you went
And
in
I'm
his
gonna
bath?
soak in this. And I gotta tell you, it was probably the best thing I did all day yesterday was get in that bath water because the stuff was still in there. And I just like, I laid there for 15 minutes and it was like a total reset. And it sounds disgusting, but that's where I was at. I was like, I can't even imagine draining this bath and refilling it. I won't do it. Let me just get in. And I'm so glad I did.
That's so funny. So that's good. I'm happy about that. You know what I just learned, which again, I'm sure you've done it for years, but tapping.
Oh, you're doing tapping.
Yeah, this week.
Yeah.
Well,
Emotional freedom technique, a shout out. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
No,
people who don't know about it.
it's quick, and it's supposed to, I did it once. A woman kind of did it to me and I was like bawling. I like
Oh,
let
yeah.
out like all my like self-worth, like I was bawling. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, so there's like a website and an app, and so I started doing that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
just
Well,
to bring you down.
absolutely. I think it's just like find those tools and put them in your toolkit. And yeah,
Right.
for people who don't know about tapping or emotional freedom technique, it's a thing. It works. I actually used it when I was pregnant. It was the only thing. Like I had such bad, forget about like morning sickness. I was vomiting morning, noon, and night for about 13 weeks. Nothing helped. And then I learned emotional freedom technique with the tapping. And I did a tapping on my vomiting, and I never threw up again. So I'm a big believer.
Oh my God. I was just trying to get rid of a little anxiety, but it worked. No,
Yeah.
there's an app. Yeah. Whatever.
We
It's
can
in
go
my
in a million different directions here, but I think just to say, like, you
right.
cannot help anybody else's nervous
Right.
system calm down when you yourself
Right.
are not in a place of grounding. And,
And
so
you're pretty grounded.
I usually am.
Yeah. So right. And again, stress is going to get us all, and it's not going to be like, I'm not telling you, right? We're not saying, oh my God, I'm never going to be stressed. But when you find yourself so heightened, like I'm glad
Oh,
you got in the bath, the
yeah,
dirty,
so heightened.
filthy
Yeah.
bath of your
Filthy
14-year-old son.
teenage boy bath water, dirty bath water. But hey, that's what's real, right? I mean, that's
Right.
what's real. I'm wondering, you have talked a lot about grief, which I think is so powerful. And what has love taught you? What have you learned about love? Maybe particularly since your divorce, but maybe in general.
Um, I would say it's more about self-love, and I can love myself, and I am worth it, and I am like every negative thing I've said to myself or has been said is what um I'm trying to get rid of, because you really have to love yourself first in order for someone else to love you. Like I don't believe I would have had this amazing relationship that I have right now without knowing who I am and loving who that person is and knowing what I was or wasn't going to accept. So
Right.
it was really more about loving me and putting me first. Which again, after having kids, like it's new to me. It was new to me. How do I put me? What do you mean? Me first? Who's me? Um, but it, so I would say it's more about it's the self-love, because I'm not saying you need to be in a relationship, to be happy forever. Like I was that girl who I would rather have been alone forever than have settled. And that is what I learned about that. So it was more self-love, like love me. I love me. I'm the one, and
Hmm.
I only have this time here, so let's do this. What am I here for? Let's help as many people as I can. Let's have fun while we're doing it.
Yeah. I'm
Life.
just flashing back to when I first met you, and you were like, look at me, I'm going to a music festival.
It was,
Because we were at a music fest together. You were like, look at me, can you believe this?
yeah, all by myself, right? Yep. I know. It
Yeah,
was.
like it was just awesome to behold that. Like just seeing you so alive and shining and just in the moment, and letting yourself have it. Like, yes, I'm going to let myself have this. I'm really going to feel okay about letting myself have these experiences.
Yes. And I was trying to this is something that's still hard, only say yes to the things that I want to do. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I was open to the new experiences because I was trying to find myself, but I was being guided that, like, again, I was, it wasn't a coincidence that I met you that weekend.
Right.
Like it wasn't, and now, I'm dating somebody who loves music and I'm at music things all the time, like it was, but you have to do the work. That's what, like, you don't get love without doing the work. Self-love, any love. I don't know. I'm sure we both have friends who like, they don't, like it's just the same patterns. They don't want to do the work. You got to do the work in order to move on. There's no, healing without feeling. Like that's it. As
Right.
much as it sucks.
Right. Right. It's unavoidable. It's really unavoidable. And when you have an experience like losing your mom that just breaks you wide open and you lose that sense of safety,
Oh my God.
that catalyst for now's the time, right? I've got to really do the work. I've got to do the work. It is a matter of survival.
And it's a matter of time because our time is not unlimited. It's not guaranteed. And in one of my medium sessions, my mother said that she not had to die, but she had to die in order for my journey to begin.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So I don't take it for granted. Like I don't, I know I'm on a journey. We're all on a journey. I went through, whatever, 48 years, not even knowing, I wasn't spiritual. I didn't believe, I just didn't. And then I've been cracked wide open into this whole other level, this whole other dimension where things now kind of make sense, and it's kind of really screwed up, and I don't understand how I can talk to my dead mother, but I can, so I will. But it's just like like that's when I was opened up, and I'm here for a reason, and I'm here to serve, and how am I going to do that? And that's why it's a struggle to keep reinventing myself, because it's like, what do I want to do? What's my, then I think, what's my purpose? But what makes money? There's a lot of factors, but
yeah. And where do I want to apply all of this wisdom and life force energy? How do I wish to serve? What do I wish to learn?
Right.
How do I wish to create? Sometimes these are the questions I ask myself when I'm feeling completely overwhelmed. It's like, where do I wish to serve? Well, what do I wish to learn? What do I wish to create? And sometimes I can get some clarity around that. If you could go back to your 45-year-old self, 44-year-old self, 40-year-old self, let's go 40.
Okay.
Let's find her in time, your 40-year-old self. What would you tell her? What would you want her to know?
Don't take this time for granted. Live in the moment. Live every day. Honestly, like live every day like it is your last. And it's not realistic. And I'm not, me, I don't walk through life like today. But I feel like I in my 40s or around then, you kind of wish some time away, or, oh, I can't wait for when the kids are this.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for when the kids are this. And guess what? Then the kids are this. And you're like, now what? So to live more in the present, and not take anything for granted. And to trust in me. I would have liked to have more trust in myself, to be my true self. Like I'm enough. I'm enough.
I'm enough.
I'm enough.
If you were going to write your story right now, what would the name of the story be?
That's horrible.
I know. Terrible.
Oh my God.
First thing. Yeah, first thing that comes to
I
mind.
keep thinking of the word survivor, and it's a horrible word, and I
Well,
really
maybe
don't want to
it's
say
not a
that.
horrible word.
But
Why
it's
is
kind of like
survivor
I've
a
made
terrible
it.
word? I've
I've
made
made
it.
it, or yeah. Right now I'm in like celebration mode. Maybe,
Yeah.
you ask me in a year and it could be different, but like right now I'm still kind of celebrating. Like my divorce will be legally done in October. I am in a great place. My kids are doing great. Right now yeah, am all things, but yeah. It's kind of like if I did it, so can you, kind of thing.
Okay. If I did it, so can you? Yeah. Yeah.
Or the beginners got, or what is it? What are those?
Oh,
The books,
dummies.
like, right. Grief and love for idiots,
Yeah.
something like that.
Love for idiots.
See, I'm getting more creative now.
That's great. I love that. I love that.
Uh,
Well, I mean, I just really honor you, you
I
know.
love you.
I love you too. You're such a bright spirit. And
I know.
I celebrate you and everything that you are creating and celebrating and experiencing and cultivating and exploring. I just see you and I honor you for it.
Back at you, girl. You are, honestly, you're like such an inspiration with your like career and the way, like, you really, I'm so psyched you're in my life, and your spirituality. I mean, if we lived closer, we would literally like turn this shit upside down.
Well, we're just going to have to get another get together on the books. That's what that is.
But yes, I'm so glad you're doing this podcast and helping just all of us be real and stay real and be able to talk real, because that's all I want. Substance.
Jayme, thank you so much for being part of Over It.
Oh, I love you.
I love you too.
All right. Bye.
Control yourself. Don't drink too much. Don't talk too much. Don't look that way. Don't stare at that boy. Don't giggle. Don't wiggle. That's too short. No one can shackle me. No, no, no. Wait, there's others. No, no, no. No, I won't give up. No, no, no. No, we won't give up. No, no, no. I don't want to hear this words. How can a man speak this way? How can a girl always him who hold up this rule? No, no, no. He kissed the dust. He's on last. Can't understand. He won't give up. He looked that way. He stared at me. Don't giggle.